It's Jennifer from Belladonna's Botanicals here with my partner in crime and love of my life, Eddie, who you may recognize from other videos on this channel. And today we are going to talk about a topic. I'm not sure what we're going to call the video yet, but this is about religion and spirituality and a lot of things that this is a collection of topics that I see discussed all the time on social media and just from my personal experiences running this channel for the past 6 years and my business for the past 8 years, 9 years. I don't know. What year is it?
2026.
8 years, I think. I think it was 2018. So 8 years in April. So we're going to talk about, and Eddie's going to take the lead on some of this because why don't you tell them a little bit about your background and how we got here.
I was a church boy for the first 40 years of my life, and have a certain amount of formal education in this topic of religion and theology and what is a religion, what isn't a religion, how religions work.
Yes, indeed. So, we're talking a lot today about reframing spirituality, and a lot of this started with me contemplating a lot of dialogues I've seen and criticisms recently of, I hate religion, religion is the problem, and where to go from there. Because yes, at times religion is a problem, or is it the religion, or is it the human beings like us? Like you, like your neighbors, like anyone else that are causing the problems. So, I'll let you finish your coffee from our matching Dracula coffee mugs. That's funny because I got those before I realized we had ancestral connections to the Draculistes. Anyways, moving on. So I think the first thing we want to talk about is the differences in the definition of religion and the definition of spirituality. So again, how would you define that?
Well,
or what's the educated academic way in which we would, or theological way in which we would define
the
them?
consensus definition of religion amongst scholars throughout all time and all history is that there is no definition of religion that works.
Yeah.
Because no matter how, every time anyone's ever attempted it, you always end up including things that we all kind of agree aren't religions, like political systems.
Yet with political systems end up fucking up religions. I think we have our first clue here.
And specifically with the term religion is very old. It comes from the Latin. Contrary to popular belief, it does not mean to tie yourself to something. The verb for, to tie yourself to something, is related to the word religio, but that's not what it means. Religio means duty. It's a duty. It's something that you are owed. So to a Roman, religion included paying your taxes. Mm-hmm. That's why Jesus was asked about paying your taxes, right? Because to the Jews, and it was the same thing, to the Jewish people, religion was just their legal system. It was part of their legal system. In Rome, their religion was part of their state. Religions were parts of states. Religions are parts of cultures. And like all parts of cultures, we can talk about them in isolation, but they don't exist in isolation. They influence each other. Now, spirituality, nobody outside of the United States and probably nobody below the age of, or above the age of, say, 50 is going to know what the hell you're talking about when you say spirituality. Right?
We're 50, by the way.
That is a uniquely American invention.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they don't even know what that means in Europe.
Really? Huh. Because you always see things about Eastern spirituality, if you go to, the yoga, I've rolled through the wellness community and yoga and all that. It's like they talk about Eastern and Western spirituality and stuff. So that's interesting because I always just assumed that.
So in both Hinduism I don't know about Jainism, but in definitely Buddhism, right? There's the word dharma, right, which usually gets translated as religion. Do you know what dharma means in Sanskrit?
No.
Law.
Law. Okay.
The law. Torah means law. In most cultures, the word for religious practices is the law. It was just part of the civil law. And this goes all the way back to the beginnings of civilization, to Pharaoh. This is how societies first organized themselves.
Because religion was a way, if I'm understanding this correctly, to have your, whatever, say the Holy Roman Empire or ancient Greece or whatever. You've had your laws, but a lot of times your laws are based upon morality. Like, don't go kill your neighbor because you want their Mercedes, that kind of thing.
It's kind of like trying to draw the line between philosophy and science. So like in the Middle Ages, how up through the Renaissance, philosopher and science used to be used interchangeably, and then only later did we start separating them into two different things. It's the same thing with religion. And the separation of religious from secular, religious from non-religious, has only ever happened in the West, or in the place where the West made it happen. And it's only started since like the 19th century. Is that
where all that theosophy stuff kind of comes in?
Yeah, well, that's a little different. That comes from a longer impulse.
Because boy howdy, do people hate theosophy right now.
It's
problematic, don't get me wrong, but
it's motivated by philosophy that was popular in the classical era, but it really took off in the Middle Ages, called perennialism, which is the idea that if you study enough philosophy and religion, if you just study enough, because they didn't make the distinction, they just saw everything as truth, that if you study enough, if you know enough, eventually you can discover the one true philosophy that all other philosophies descended from. But that's not how it happened. And that's the mythology of fascism, that there is a golden age to which we must return, that we have fallen from. And that's not how human societies have ever worked.
Is that why people hate theosophy so much? Because it's kind of fascist coded in ways?
It can be, only because it...
That's not to say there aren't valuable
I love theosophy.
Parts of theosophy. Don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of legitimately hella problematic parts of it.
I love theosophy for what it is, but you have to understand that it's an exercise in the idea that all religions teach the same thing, and they most certainly do not. Most people tend to think that on the surface religions are different, but if you just scratch that surface a little bit, you find universal truths. No, what you find are some pretty universal rules for how to maintain a civil society, i.e. the basis of law. Don't kill people, don't steal, don't lie.
Because like the 10 commandments are pretty freaking basic, just like, don't shit where you sleep kind of things. But at some point in time, people needed to be told, don't shit where you sleep.
Right. Well, and that's an important distinction, is that we have a piece of our brain. Our brains are wired around being religious or spiritual or finding meaning. The human brain is a meaning-making machine. It finds meaning where there isn't any.
And I can also speak to that too, because for a very long time in my life, I was a very angry and very pragmatic atheist who could not wait to tell you how much religion sucked and you were an asshole for following anything.
Right, and what we're really getting to here is the difference between...
Because I was angry.
Institutionalized, and I'm just going to say it right now. For the rest of this video, when I say religion, you just hear spirituality and religion. Same thing. Because I'm about to draw the distinction that I think people are really trying to make, which is between institutional religion and personal religion. Which this is what the Protestant Reformation was all about. Is religion the property of the state? Is it something that the state mandates to which we all must belong? Or is it something that we have to work out for ourselves? Now, that's not where it started in Protestantism, but that's where they ended up. That's how we got the concept of religious freedom in the West. And the idea of secular versus religious is the idea there are some things that should be kept out of the sphere of religion because the continent of Europe had just fought 30 years of war over religion. That's why the concept emerged, was let's just take religion out of normal day-to-day stuff so that we don't kill each other over
Is this
it.
where we get the separation of church and state?
Separation of church and state comes directly from a letter Thomas Jefferson wrote to a Baptist church in, is it Danbury, Connecticut?
I feel like I should know this because apparently,
Or Rhode Island.
apparently Thomas Jefferson is also a distant cousin, ancestor, or something from that weird one family connection to a line descended from the Mayflower people.
Separation of church and state comes specifically from the Baptists, the English Baptists, because like their continental German Anabaptist relations, they're not really related. They kind of are. A big part of like the Amish to this day is they don't vote, they don't participate in civil government at all. Only to the extent that they are forced to by law. Like they pay
how
their
does that
taxes.
work? Oh, okay, yeah, I was
they
gonna
pay their
say,
taxes
yeah.
only because they're told they have to. Like if it's a choice between going to jail or doing this thing, up to a point, they'll do the thing. But like if you tell them, this was part of the last time cars came up, was the argument was, well, the state makes us register the cars, they make us get license plates, and they make us get driver's license, and we can't do that. Like they won't serve on juries, they won't file lawsuits, they won't if like when that shooting happened in the Amish school not too far from where I'm from, and a bunch of Amish school children were killed. A big part of the problem with the prosecution was the families refused to even give they gave statements to the police, I think, but they wouldn't be witnesses in the trial. They won't participate in that because the guy was up for the death penalty.
Oh.
Right? So, but that's the point, is that in the West, I shouldn't say the West, in Europe, what we now mean by the West, even though the West really means Western Europe, the West as a term is not a term of bigotry of white over non-white. It
Yes,
is a
and
term
also
of
I'm
bigotry.
here to remind you, as I do every at least once a week. Hi, Central and Eastern Europe exists. We're very different.
Yeah, Eastern.
I don't even get. I'm European. I even don't get the West and Western because I am from an Eastern European mindset. We're different. We're very, very, very different.
Slavs are not Western.
And I'm very
Germans
Scythian too.
are not Western.
Yeah.
Italy is not Western.
Really?
Yeah, the only only truly Western nations are England, France, and Spain. And Spain isn't even considered the West by Westerners.
Huh.
The West is a term invented by England to justify their claim over France during the 100 Years' War.
So we're going to start talking a little bit about why I kind of put this concept together for a video of I hate religion, and religion is the problem with everything. Because on the surface, yeah, that seems true. Because if you're in America, you're dealing with the rise of Christo-fascism, which is definitely a sorted PDF file between church and politics, and it's nasty. And that is a problem.
Someday I'll do a video where I'll tell you my personal history with that project. I met Jerry Falwell.
Ew.
But yeah, we started to cover the problem.
Right.
Before,
So we're
which is-
blaming religion on everything, whether it's what's going on in Israel and Palestine, whether it's what's going on in America right now, but we're blaming the religion. But when you get down to the core religious texts, Are any of the, is the Quran the problem? Is the Torah the problem? Is the Old Testament the problem? Is the New Testament the problem in and of itself?
Well, I can tell you with absolute certainty that while it's difficult, history has shown that you can, in fact, make the words of Jesus to love everybody, no exceptions, to love them by forcing them to convert to Christianity or killing them.
But that comes down to, that seems like that's something that like a person would have decided.
Yes.
That their interpretation of the scripture was molded on what they think and what they feel. Like, I personally, as a satanic demonologer, I don't like ceremonial magic. I think it's rude. A lot of the when you go into the traditional ceremonial working, the grimoire traditions, Solomonic magic of I'm gonna and especially things where forcing them into manifestation and the blasting rods and all of that.
Yeah.
I think that's really fucking rude. Like, if you're that scared of working with the demonic, then don't. Yeah, you don't need archangels to work with the demonic. I work with the demonic every fucking day. And am I possessed? Do I have problems? Do I have shit, going off the rails? No, I don't need to scare them with archangels. Yeah, because that's where people end up having problems with the demonic, because they're acting like a damn fool trying to force them to do their bidding, because I think that has something to do with the human ego.
Yeah.
Because it seems like what you're saying also seems to be a failing of the human ego. Or human psychology.
Human psychology, yeah. The problem is that we as a species have the rather unique capacity to form societies and civilizations and build technology and all of that stuff, right? And that stuff moves fast, but evolution moves slow. Mm-hmm. And built into us by evolution. And, well, see, that presupposes that evolution has a purpose. One of the ways in which we gained a survival advantage that is not unique to humans, it's not even unique to primates, right, is that we are predisposed biologically to cooperation, empathy, etc., etc., on the individual level. Mm-hmm. But it also predisposes us to tribalism. Mm. And when resources are scarce, it predisposes us to favor people who look like us more than people who don't look like us.
How would you define tribalism? Because a lot of times people hear the word tribe and they're thinking of, indigenous tribes or African tribes or, anything in that sense.
Tribalism
is different.
Yes, tribalism is the impulse, universal within all human beings, in all societies, in all civilizations throughout time, because, again, you see this in primates, mm-hmm. and you see this in other animals, other mammals, mm-hmm. Social mammals. Tribalism is that tendency that when resources are scarce, and you are competing between different groups mm-hmm. for resources, it is the rather natural pro-survival tendency to side with the group you're in as opposed to the group you're not in.
When we were talking about this before we started recording, and that kind of clicked for me because, in the past, say, 4 years, because I don't know why, I've really been, and if you've watched the videos, obviously I talked about this a lot, is I've been doing a lot of ancestral reconnection and ancestral healing and trauma and exploration, genealogical research. When did that really start for me? What happened 4 years ago in February? It was the start of the Ukraine and Russia war.
Yeah.
That's when it started. Because I felt the need to protect my culture and my heritage, because this isn't the first time that Russia has done things like made the Ukrainian language illegal.
And there's a religious angle to this that demonstrates it, which is that prior to the most recent war, there really was no Ukrainian Orthodox Church to speak of. It kind of existed.
Well, we have Ukrainian Catholic churches here, which is based upon the Byzantine Rite. That's what my family went to. And that's why I'm always confused as to how to describe it, because it's either the Byzantine Rite, the Byzantine Catholic, Ukrainian Catholic, Eastern Rite, maybe, but even though we're not specifically Eastern Orthodox, we do still have some Orthodox traditions. Like Orthodox Christmas is January 7th, and Orthodox New Year's was January 14th. I just took down my Christmas tree on January 14th because that's when you take down your tree, is on Orthodox New Year's.
And those are all Western terms. Eastern Orthodoxy is shorthand for Russian Orthodoxy, because in Ukraine, because after Byzantium became after Constantinople became Istanbul, right? The center of Orthodoxy moved from Byzantium, which was the region that Constantinople was in.
Was this with the Hagia Sophia?
Yeah, the Hagia Sophia.
I think it's pronounced Aya. Okay,
Anyway,
and we're back.
The point is, on the Ukrainian Orthodox, for a long time...
There we go.
For a long time, there was no Ukrainian Orthodox Church. There was just the Russian Orthodox Church. And then after Ukraine gained its independence, because Ukrainians and Russians both emerged from the same ethnic group. And they don't like each other.
Well,
just like the Germans, just like about a few hundred years before the Kievan Rus were the Franconians, who were the common ancestors of both the French and the Germans.
We've got mixed. We're going way off the rails here.
We're going to have to edit so much of this out.
I don't know. Maybe you'll learn a thing. Who knows? But like for me being, I say Eastern and Central European, I am, and in my ancestral genealogical research, I am heavily, so from this region, of which I kind of got all that area in my genetics, is I am first, see, this is the thing with Russia, is they want to put everything under this great pan-Slavic rubric. And when you look at the ancient genetics and DNA and what the groups in that areas were, I am very heavily Scythian, Western Scythian, Ostrogoth, Visigoth, Goth, Gepid, Slavic. I have very little Slav. I'm Slavic, but not as Slavic as you would think, being from what we call Slavic countries now, that we're derived from the Scythians, the Western Scythians. I mean, even if you look at a country like Hungary, they're Magyar, their stuff. So you've got, and then if you're going back way further, you're going to have a lot more from, say, the Huns and the Mongolians, the Mongolian hordes, and the Ottoman Turks. So there is some intermixing in there. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about the Kievan Rus, honestly, the Kievan Rus, I was thinking about it, and it's like, yes, the center of it is in Kiev, but the Kievan Rus kind of goes from Ukraine, probably gets a little bit up along the edges of, say, Slovakia, Hungary, and Poland now, goes a little bit into Moldavia, or Moldova, Transnistria, into, like, that part of Russia where you've got, like, Novgorod, Muscovy, and up into the Baltics, and up into, like, probably the Finland. But I believe it is more of a Finno-Ugur.
Yeah, well, they're all descended from the Varangians.
The Varangians, which is a Finnish or Viking sort of heritage. That's why you see a lot, like, I have a lot of, say, Swedish and Danish Viking, they use that because, again, that is another thing I see people argue about it. Well, Viking was a profession, not like...
It's a verb.
It's a verb. But the reason people say Viking and they have Viking ancestry is because, guess what? All that DNA is being extracted from Viking burials and Viking shipwrecks and things like that. That's why they call it Viking. And now we return you to our regularly scheduled video from a side quest into.
The point is that this is a perfect example of how religion works.
Yeah.
Which is you had this one religion called the Russian Orthodox Church, and because of changes in both political, social, and the cultural landscape, right? Ukraine wins its independence. Russia doesn't like that Ukraine won its independence. Russia starts getting aggressive with Ukraine. The Russian Orthodox Church aligns itself
it's just
the Russian government.
Yeah, the Russian Orthodox Church is basically Putin's church.
And so the Russian Orthodox Church in Ukraine says, okay, forget it. We're going to align ourselves with our leader, and now you have a Ukrainian Orthodox Church with its own patriarchy. That's just how it works. And that's exactly what happened in the Great Schism between the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox. This is how it works.
Right, because I always described it as you kind of had the fall of, like the Holy Roman Empire went west, Byzantium went east. So that's why Central and Eastern Europe have very different religious and cultural and spiritual traditions. Like, holy crap, you want to get into some wild stuff in religious spirituality? Romania. And I am also Romanian, so Romania, holy crap, they've got some weird shit, but they're also very beautiful in like the death culture around it. And get back onto track of what we were kind of talking about here is, and I don't know where we left off on the. Yeah, we're kind of, we looked a little bit at the East-West. So even within Europe, you have East-West Europe. So, that is one way of looking at it. But you also have the Eastern world and the Western world. So if you're putting Buddhism, Hinduism, all that stuff into Eastern spirituality, religion, etc., whatever you want to call it.
And so what I think most people mean when they talk about the difference between religion and spirituality, again, is there's the institutional and the personal. And that's a very valid distinction to make, and it's the one that should be made.
Oh, absolutely.
Is because institutionalized religion becomes like institutionalized anything else. The institutions exist to support the state, whatever the state is. Now, that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. We don't know. Right? But not necessarily the state. The state is another institution. Society. Right? And it's important to understand that religion, like government, like math, is one of those things that is critical.
We're looking for things to blame anymore. It's like, let's blame the religion. Let's blame this group of people. Let's blame this, that, or the other thing. And it's
and that itself,
we're constantly looking at finger pointing, and we're not getting to the root of the problem. We're going, religion's the problem. But then if you get into, say, I don't know, let's when was religion banned? When has religion been completely outlawed in countries?
Well, that's the funny thing is, see, there's a big argument in religious studies. Like, this is a valid argument in religious studies as to whether atheism is a religion or not.
Yeah.
And the answer really there is that atheism in the West, no. Atheism under communism, it becomes a religion. And it became a religion first because again, Marx and Engels are writing after the distinction between religious and not religious has been made, and they are the first ones to say religion is the problem. If we just get rid of religion, all this non-religious stuff would work fine.
Because, I mean, the Soviet Union seemed like a happy, fun time once they did that. All the problems went away in the USSR, right?
Well, they weren't anti-religious.
They never had any problems, though, since they got rid of religion.
Marx and Engels weren't anti-religious. In fact, the first Internationale, which was, you may know of in America as the labor movement. If you're in the UAW, if you're in a union, you're part of the first Internationale, buddy.
What is that? The first Internationale.
That was the first labor movement, directly from Marx and Engels,
really?
the first generation of readers. That's where the labor movement came from. the Union as we understand it today. And then the second one was communism in Germany. And they were against the churches in Germany, but that was because the churches propped up the state. And communism didn't become anti-religious until Lenin. Lenin's idea was that, much like his idea with the Vanguard Party, the party, is that the party would have this strong authoritarian control until the people had broken free from all of their capitalist training.
So it was happy fun time in Soviet Union then, once
Right.
they got rid of religion and capitalism. Everyone lived happily ever after, as we know. Nothing ever went wrong.
And then Stalin, and this is the point I want to make,
I'm being facetious here, by the way.
who, remember, just like me, was a church boy and former seminarian who decided to leave and understood how religion worked and lived in a country that put him in contact with people from the East, where they don't make that distinction.
Yeah, because he was from Soviet Georgia.
He was from Georgia.
But,
I
believe.
he was under Lenin. He was one of the guys who dealt a lot with the stands. He dealt a lot with the stands because he was Georgian. Mm-hmm. But and so he was the one who came up with the plan that actually successfully integrated a lot of Muslims into the Soviet Union and Jews into the Soviet Union. And then was the one who outlawed religious Judaism and exterminated all the religious Jews and all of the religious Muslims, and then went into Afghanistan and, he didn't go in Afghanistan.
People don't know history now, so put in as much history as you can.
The point is that
I personally, my mission right now is to offend as many people as possible with historical facts. Sorry, not sorry.
Stalin intentionally dismantled the distinction in Russian minds between religious and not religious. There is only one thing, and that is society. And by society, he meant the state.
So then everyone lived happily ever after?
Not so much. And it was that we underestimate the impact that Western missionaries, oftentimes funded by the CIA, made in the Soviet Union. Like, the reason why the Russian Orthodox Church threw in behind Putin is because after communism, they thought all the Russians would just come back to the Russian Orthodox Church, and they didn't. They started going to evangelical Western-style churches.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that explains a lot.
The Russian Baptists. It's a whole big thing now.
Well, alrighty then.
We have a great big colony of them right in where I'm from because Putin's been kicking them out.
Ah, I see.
They're not Orthodox enough.
Ah. So, obviously, as a Ukrainian, I have no love lost for Russia, so. But, also being of the ancestry that I have, some of that ancestry, borders change a lot. Like, all of my recent ancestral documents have different things on them, whether they're Slovak, from Czechoslovakia, Slovak land, Ruthenia, which is an old term for Ukraine, Polish, and they're, a lot of times the borders change and stuff like that, and
now we hit the magical angle, right? So this is everything we can say from, I think, reasonably informed but not fully credentialed academic answer. Well, that's as far as
I have a BFA in art history, if that counts for anything.
That's as far as we can go.
And I'm a gigantic nerd who reads a lot.
Now, going into the more occult literature, we get to old Uncle Al, right? And his concept of the new aeon, right? So to bring it around to the occult angle, Uncle Al talked about the new aeon. Well, what did he mean by that? Okay, so Crowley believed that all of human history could be divided into 3 aeons. and initially was the Aeon of Isis. And this was matriarchal hunter-gatherer societies. Now, Crowley's basing this on the best anthropology at the time. He wasn't completely wrong, but it's not this cut and dried.
And also, since we discussed with Theosophy, yes, we are aware that Aleister Crowley is problematic.
Yes. He's papering over a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Which you have to do as part of any occult endeavor to make any two things work.
So, to bring Theosophy and Aleister Crowley together, and also that would take a little bit of the Golden Dawn and OTO of it all, is, I think a lot of what people find problematic about it is that the West went in and yoinked some stuff from the East and brought it in to Western esotericism.
Yeah, but that itself was part of the... That was just an extension of the project that had already been underway to do the same thing with everything they could find in Europe. It's just... It was just what anthropology was doing. Right?
And now people hate anthropologists for... I don't know, teaching us things about other cultures.
Well...
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's bad shit that came out of it. And
for a real long time. And never ask an... Actually, yes. Go find an anthropologist and ask them what they think of archaeologists. You'll get an earful. But, so we had the Aeon of Isis, which was very matriarchal hunter-gatherer societies, right? And let me tell you something. Crowley didn't know this. We do know this now. Matriarchal societies were just as bad and sometimes worse.
And I can put in here a personal experience that's going to piss in somebody's Wheaties. Fuck feminism, and I'm going to tell you why. I was actually... And on the good side, I was raised in a more matriarchal family structure. That's why women don't like me, because I'm not a patriarchal woman. I'm a matriarchal woman. And boy howdy do I rub people the wrong way, and have my entire life, since I was probably a child and didn't know any better, but this is how I was raised, and it's deeply ingrained in my soul. The worst job experience I've ever had in my life, and the most PTSD I've ever had from a job experience, was working at my alma mater, which was an all-women's college, with mostly, probably about 90% of the staff was women. And I have never in my life worked in a more misogynistic, hateful environment in my life that was so demeaning on every possible level. So you would think, oh my God, feminism, yay, women's institutions, oh my God, it's great, matriarchal. Bullshit. I call fucking bullshit on that. And I call bullshit on all the people like, we need a patriarchy now. Shut the fuck up. Y'all still in the patriarchal mindset. Anyways, rant aside.
And then anthropologically, and Crowley associates this with the god Osiris and worship of the sun. We get to the dawn of agriculture, and the dawn of agriculture is also the dawn of civilization, which means it's the dawn of religion is the way we're talking about it now. All of these institutions go right back to the beginning of agriculture.
Right.
Because everything we're talking about here with kings and princes and warriors and priests and religions and laws and doctrines and cities and dogmas and all of that stuff is the machinery of how you make an agricultural civilization, or any civilization larger than a handful, a small band of hunter-gatherers. That's how you organize them. And as evidence of this, I want to point to the Americas, right? Because remember, they were isolated. The indigenous peoples of North America have been isolated since before the invention of agriculture, right? We were still hunter-gatherers at this point. They also developed those same institutions. Now, they taught different things, they acted in different ways, but those institutions existed and they did the same things and in a lot of the same ways.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the difference between the religion of the Aztecs and the North American Plains Native Americans is a big part of the reason why The Aztecs ended up with an empire. They never did.
Oh, it's different.
The Aztecs conquered everyone around them because they built a religion around we need to conquer everyone.
Oh.
And so the point is where I'm going...
That didn't work out too well, did it?
So in the Assyrian age, singular focus on a singular sun god, which becomes monotheism, and everything else around it must exist solely in service to that one thing. This is when institutions are born. And if you can't tell, this is where I'm laying the blame. Mm-hmm. Right?
Agriculture.
Right.
Fucking agriculture, man.
But not so much in the sense that this is terrible, we shouldn't have done it this way. No, we had to do it that way because it was the only way we could emerge from hunter-gatherer and advance. My problem is that we haven't had to live this way since the 19th century, when guys like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels and the early anthropologists and everybody else started trying to make a distinction between what is this thing that has sort of run our lives and governed our lives all this time and has made us kill each other, but we don't really want to do that.
I think there's a question that I want to put in here. We didn't put on our outline because the feminism part brought it to there, is how the patriarchy, as we talk about it today, figures into this. Because you were talking about the matriarchy, which is why I brought in my personal experience there with having worked in what should have been a matriarchal, yay, women environment and was not.
What was the one?
Like, I would say this, like, people always like, oh, you need, I don't need feminism. I don't need feminism. I navigate the patriarchal society. I know how to do that. I'm exceptionally skilled at it at this point. I don't need feminism because I am feminism. I don't need some external philosophy that has to tell me how to be and how to act and how to, empower myself, because I already know how to do that.
Well, and therein you see it in for instance, the tension between the second and third or third and fourth wave feminists. I can't remember, the sex positive versus sex negative thing.
Yeah.
And this which continues.
Our generation would have been third wave, I believe.
Which
our parents, like my mom and your mom, would have been second wave feminism.
Right.
And apparently I'm related to, like, all the suffragettes as well.
Which includes things like, and I'm also including in this phenomenon things like Gold Star lesbians and lesbians who've never slept with a man.
Oh, I should have known that. I had lesbian roommates in college.
And like radical feminist lesbianism, which is lesbianism as a political philosophy. Right. And like the anti-porn crusaders and things like that. The TERFs.
Yeah.
A lot of that all comes down to the fact that, again, we're seeing the same thing I'm talking about here, which is this natural impulse that human beings have, and some asshole or group of assholes sees an opportunity to exploit that and say, well, I can use this to get these people fighting these people while I take both their shit.
Yeah. And one thing I would like to point out to you about the videos we're doing in these various series is we're also demonstrating how two people can have a conversation and about big topics, about heavy topics, about controversial topics from a position of academia. Mm-hmm. We're not fighting over this. Mm-hmm. We disagree on things. There's things I know that he doesn't know. He knows that I don't know. It's not a power play in that sense. We're constantly learning from each other because we're gigantic nerds.
And understand, I work in a context where, two people can have a shouting matches over, Mozart versus Bach and still work together. Like nerds who take shit way too seriously. Like seriously. Kirk versus Picard? I'm just saying. We're all Trekkies, though.
I can't do my hands don't do the thing. I've never been able to do it.
I'll do it this way. This way is okay.
I can do it this way.
If you are going to be offended by my culturally appropriating Jewish symbols, look away. That's the one you're not supposed to do. This comes from the Kabbalah.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, this is a symbol.
Huh.
The Kohanim, the descendants of the priests,
I learned something new today.
make during the blessing.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Neat.
And Leonard Nimoy is Jewish. I can only do it with my left hand. You're not supposed to do it with your left hand. It's your right hand. I can't do it with my right hand.
I can't do it with either hand because I have psoriatic arthritis and my hands don't do
Yeah,
things.
you know the really famous illustration of the human hand where it shows each knuckle with the Hebrew letter? That's where that comes from.
Oh.
Because when you do this, it makes some Kabbalistic thing.
Oh, okay. Oh,
like
I
it's
see.
a reference to the pillars on the tree, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
I'm not really sure.
I learned something
Or
while doing this.
the Torah and the Tanakh, maybe. Or the Tanakh and the Talmud. It's the whole thing. There's a whole series of, twos.
So getting back onto wherever we left off, and I don't even know, so...
Yeah, the final eon, and this leads us to, and this is why Crowley founded Thelema, and this is what Crowley was all about, is that we were moving into the Aeon of Horus, which is the Aeon of the individual, the crowned and conquering child, right?
Is that the one we're currently in or moving towards?
Moving into, because here's the other thing. See, in Crowley's youth, when he learned anthropology,
so...
it was believed that these transitions happened suddenly. Mm-hmm. They did not happen suddenly, nor did they happen all at once. These shifts actually took decades or centuries, right? We were moving into the new Aeon before Crowley even showed up, and we are still moving into that Aeon. And it is my contention that a lot of the bullshit all of the bullshit we see in the world is the old Aeon falling apart to make way for the new one.
So this is basically collectivism versus individualism. I've always been a staunch individualist. I have no desire to belong to a church, a coven, a sect, an order, or to start one, or to be your high priestess or your guru or any of that stuff.
But it's also not...
I am very ruggedly individualist. I have no interest in collectivization.
But here's the thing. So Crowley's point was, matriarchy was very collectivist. Patriarchy was very individualist.
Maybe I'm the bridge between both.
No, that's the point. The point is both. It is individuals living without exploiting each other. Living equal. I'm an individual. I'm God.
Yeah.
And you are too.
Yeah.
And together...
we are God and Goddess.
You can do what you want, and I can do what I want. As long as what I'm doing doesn't hurt what you're doing. As long as
do what thou will be the whole of the law. But wait, there's more! Love is the law, love under will. Yay.
Yeah.
I think we could do an entire video on how people get that so fucking wrong in the occult. Because they stop with do what thou will be the whole of the law. I'm like, well, cool, I'm going to go shit in your soup. Because Uncle Al told me I can, and that is not what it means.
And preview for another video. The word Crowley used for love, agape, is because he was a church kid, and he was a church kid from a specific tradition of church kid that is the same tradition of church kid that I was in. And so he was using love and agape specifically in a very specific way.
Because agape love is...
charity.
That's...
agape. So agape in Greek got translated to caritas in the Vulgate, which became anglicized as charity. It is the conscious act to place the needs of another person ahead of your own. Mm-hmm. Right? In my case, and in the case of all of us, right? It is the choice to say, you know what? I could go out and sell snake oil and flim-flam people into giving me all their money and then sit back on my $1 billion and say, ha-ha, I earned this. And that's not how that works, right? I can say it is the conscious choice to say that while I could do that, I'm not going to do that. Because as long as I have enough to live on, then what do I need to take his shit for? That's the point. That's the point where agriculture came from. That's how war started. Was, well, because the problem with hunter-gatherer societies is everybody is so involved in food, they have no time to do anything else. And so the idea of agriculture was, we're going to pick a certain group of people and make them grow all the food by force, so that then other people can do things like invent philosophy and math and engineering, and then build buildings, and then become a merchant class, and become carpenters, and divide labor. It's called the division of labor.
Yeah.
Right? And the only division of labor we had as hunter-gatherers was between hunters and gatherers.
Most of us have, like when I was talking earlier about the individualism versus collectivism, I mean, yes, we have to function within societies. Like, collectively, I have a family. Granted, it's a small family, but I have a family. That's a collective in there. Or I belong to a certain thing.
I'm a member of a family. I am still an individual within that family, right? But I'm a member of that family. And it's my choice. I have chosen to remain a member of that family and to support that family and to help that family, right? But not everybody has to make that choice. People have reasons not to do that.
Yeah, and they're valid.
And they're perfectly valid, right? And I'm not saying people have to explain themselves, but there are non-valid reasons for doing that too. But I'm not going to judge people for that. And to bring it around, let's bring it around to the big application, which is, I'm going to start with the 3 applications for every lecture and rant I have, which is, in the immortal words of Ben Franklin, I think, be ye not a dick. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. We're all a work in progress. Everybody calm the fuck down. Take a deep breath. And let's talk about it. Let's
use your words.
Right?
I mean, I have always had a very same, and you've probably heard me even say it on this channel, is my MO, and this goes political, spiritual, any aspect of life. My entire ethos is live and let live, and don't be a dick about it. But if you're going to be a dick about it, best be prepared to catch these hands, because I did spend half my life in Philly, though. Now we're going to talk about
religious trauma. This part
we all got it. And I may have supplemental rants for this.
I have a lot of religious trauma.
I had a religious trauma.
And the important point here is, I grew up in the church. She didn't.
Yeah, we were... Well, I was born...
Semi-churched.
I was born Byzantine Catholic. We converted to Roman Catholicism when we moved to Northwest Georgia because there just weren't a lot of Eastern Europeans there, to the point at which the town Jewish family actually went to our Catholic church as well. And those were our friends because we were the... We kind of don't belong here, but it's the close enough. So we kind of have some community, and then we moved back north. I went to Catholic school, decided at 15, got a lot of religious trauma, said fuck this shit, and kind of went the occult/atheism route, and here we are.
The point is that you have religious trauma too. Even if you live in Europe, you have religious trauma. Even if you live in the most secular nation on earth, you have religious trauma, right? You grew up under the communists, you got religious trauma.
You got a lot of other trauma,
You got a lot of religious trauma, right? Because your religious trauma was Stalin's religious trauma.
And you might have ended up in a gulag if you were practicing your religion.
So, as with all trauma, you have to prioritize your healing, right? It's not your fault, right? It's not your fault that you have this trauma. It is, however, your responsibility to get better, because nobody else is going to do it for you. If some guy walks up to me and punches me in the face and breaks my glasses, great. He says he's sorry, great. Maybe he even offers to buy me a new pair of glasses. Great. I'm still going to have a little bit of a bruise, and he can't go to the doctor for me.
Right.
I got to go to the doctor for it. Right?
It is a tough pill to swallow. Like when someone says, healing is your responsibility.
Yeah. And it takes time. And finding someone to help you heal from it is incredibly difficult in professional mental health circles, because a great number, if not the majority of people who go into that profession are motivated to do so religiously.
Mm-hmm. I have very specific criteria for which I pick out mental health professionals for that reason.
Yeah. There's certain questions you need to ask. That's a whole other thing.
Yep.
But just be sensitive to other people, right? Yeah. There are some things, it happened last night, right? Not religious trauma, something perfectly innocent triggered me, right? And you were very sensitive to it. You jumped right in and you took care of me. But at the same time, I didn't sit there and go, oh, you triggered me. Like it was her fault that I was feeling bad. No, it's not her fault I felt bad. It was the people who it was the people who treated me badly. She just reminded me of them. It's not her fault. She didn't do anything wrong.
And it was probably something completely innocuous as well.
They did something wrong. Yeah. And yes, and this is how post-traumatic stress disorder works. When she triggers the shit that they did to me, I see her as them and I get mad at her because I can't get mad at them. Yeah. And if you want to know the real reason for all the bullshit we see in the world today... And
I healed my trauma so I can deal with it.
It's that. It's that guy's great-granddaddy killed my great-granddaddy, and now I got to kill him. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Because it's built into us. Because that was a pro-survival thing. But we don't have to live that way. Just take a deep breath, slow down, and think about what kind of world you want to live in. And try to be that person.
Yeah. Because we all have trauma and we get triggered by things. And I've kind of come out the other side of having healed my religious trauma, having healed my big T trauma. And let me tell you, I'm 50 years old. It took me over half my life to this point to heal through all that shit. This is not a fast process. You cannot force healing. There is no deity you can pray to that's just going to go, ooga booga, you're healed. It takes a lot of work. It takes plunging yourselves through the depths of hell into the abyss and beyond. And, you know, completely... I use a lot of metaphors for things from like the Hellraiser movies. It will tear your soul apart. Sometimes your soul needs to be torn apart. You need the chains and fish hooks literally ripping you apart so you can reconstitute and come back. Like my religious trauma was primarily based upon because I was a convert from Eastern Catholicism to Roman Catholicism, which are very different. So I was in a place I didn't belong. I was the weird kid, the freak. I didn't fit in. So a lot of my trauma came from not fitting in. So what do you do when you don't fit in? You start deliberately not fitting in. That's why I was into all the subcultural stuff. That's why I was a goth and a alternative punk, industrial, riot girl, whatever, metalhead, whatever back in the day. Because I made it my thing. I'm like, okay, I don't fit in, so I'm really not going to fit in, and I'm going to make it your problem.
you want to know the truth? Exact same thing happened to me. I was just born into a different subculture.
Right. And the big T religious trauma for me, when I was a junior in high school, in a 2.5-week span, I had 2 friends put guns to their heads and commit suicide because they were being horrifically, physically, and sexually abused by their families. And what did our priest say? Well, that's very sad and all, but, suicide's a mortal sin, so they're rotting in hell. That's what you want to tell a bunch of grieving 16-year-olds. I'm sorry your friend died, but, suicide's a mortal sin. You're going to rot in hell, so.
And I'm saying that now. This is really
I
important.
should have put a trigger warning before that.
Yes,
Apologies.
no.
I could probably maybe put a text trigger warning in.
The important thing that I want to finish on is, I know I just told everyone watching this video to get their shit together. I never would tell an individual person. Like, I'm never going to look you in the eye and say to you, get your shit together.
Unless I'm procrastinating on doing something or going out. Get your shit together. It's time to go.
Right. I can't, even if it's blatantly obvious to you and everyone else around them that somebody is doing some asshole-ish behavior because of their religious trauma, it is not your job to point out that they are doing it because of their religious trauma. For a couple of reasons. Not the least of which is because by doing that, you are virtually guaranteeing that they will not address that religious trauma.
Oh, that's a good point.
Or any other kind of trauma. Right? Mm-hmm. That's not how people who get into treatment get into treatment.
I tend to ask leading questions for things.
Right.
I'm like, does it bother you if, or how do you feel about this certain thing? Does this bring up feelings of abandonment or whatever? So there's ways to broach it carefully. I've just had 30 some years of therapy, so I know how to do that. And
sometimes it's like, I went through it too. Like, we all been there where you have the brand new, I've been through it so many times in so many different contexts. The brand new convert, right? Mm-hmm. We used to when we used to joke about it in church about stage cage Calvinists. It's like the first 2 years after somebody becomes a Calvinist, you got to lock them in a cage. Otherwise, they're going to run around biting everybody else's heads off and calling Methodists heretics and trying to burn Catholics at the stake, right? Because they just got to chill the fuck out.
Quick. So what I want to talk about here as we're wrapping it up is reframing spirituality and religion on your own personal self-determination. This is what I think is important because I blow people's minds all the time. So I'm like, well, yes, I'm a satanic demonologist just as much as I'm a Byzantine Catholic, just as much as I'm a Slavic paganism, because those are all parts of who I am. You can be things that are seemingly contradictory, and as trite and cheesy and new agey as it sounds, it is all connected at the end of the day. My ancestors don't shun me because I work with demons, because my ancestors, most of which came through that sort of Ukrainian Catholic, Byzantine Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, whatever, depending on where they were from. But our origins are in Slavic paganism. I am reconnecting with myself and my ancestry through those two parts, and that is perfectly valid. I healed my religious trauma, which allows me to do that. I could not have called myself a Catholic, a Byzantine Catholic of any sorts prior because I hadn't healed that trauma. Healing that trauma allowed me to open up fully to spirituality, to develop what works for me. And I don't need to belong to a church, a coven, a sect, or any group.
No, I think you're wrong. I think you all need to join my cult.
What is our cult again?
I don't know. It's not
You're joking.
Like, I'm not. It's not like I'm a Luciferian who hand assembled everything together from bits of Kabbalah and chaos magic and technology from a certain extremely litigious sci-fi cult that shall remain nameless.
The point we're making here is with religion and spirituality aren't the problem. It's human ego. It's the priest in the pulpit. It's the papacy. It's the youth pastor, the preacher, the person that's going, you need to think like me and do as I do, but not as I do, because I'm going to do some shady shit back here, but y'all are not allowed to do that shady shit.
And please understand this. If you understand nothing else about this, understand this. You need to understand that all of the if you are like me and you grew up in this and you got traumatized by it, okay? This is an extremely difficult thing to accept, but I didn't start getting better until I did. Before they did it to me, somebody else did it to them. They're just repeating the cycle.
Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of this is about, is repeating cycles. Historically, your grandpa killed my grandpa, so I'm, and the cycles perpetuate.
And the thing about ending cycles of abuse is getting mad about it doesn't fix anything. Mm-hmm. The only thing that fixes it is recognizing the fact that they were victims too, just as you're a victim. And because they were victims, they became abusers, and then making the decision for yourself, no.
Yeah, like our Germanic ancestry came here due to religious persecution.
Mm-hmm. Well,
kind of.
Ethnic persecution.
Ethnic persecution. Maybe not. But again, as we talked, sometimes those things go hand in hand.
Very much related to religion, because the Prussians were Protestant and the Bavarians very much are not.
Yes.
All right.
So, anyways, we've got to go move our cars because it snowed, so we're going to get going. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Be sure to follow us on social media. Sign up for our e-newsletter so you always don't go wrong, because algorithms suck and billionaires are fascist motherfuckers. Love y'all.
Don't be a dick.
Do what thou will. Oh, actually. Live and let live, and don't be a dick about it.
All right, move cars.